What's up, everybody? Welcome to Two Docs, No Degrees. I am Kyle Carver, aka Doc Carver. You already know who this is. This is Doc Frankie, Colton Franklin. Welcome back.
Finally, both of us are on here. About time. After two solo videos, I'm finally getting to have a little conversation here. And of course, you know, we're going to have the divisional recap, and then we're going to move in to the conference championships. But first, since it's fresh in everyone's mind,
the national championship game.
Joe Burrow.
What a dude, man. What a dude. I said it before we started rolling. I haven't been watching college football that long compared to what maybe some other people have been. Maybe 15 years that I've actually really understood what was going on the field. I've been watching college football for over 20 years myself. In no time have I ever seen a quarterback as pro-ready as what Joe Burrow is right now. It's absolutely ridiculous, the level that this cat plays at. He makes every single throw on the field. He shows no fear. It doesn't matter the situation, whether he's down, whether he's up, and they haven't been down much. He's the complete package, and it sucks. It sucks that he's going to be going to Cincinnati, but he's truly someone that you can build a team around, and I'm excited to see. Although it's Arkansas till I die.
Both of us.
I can't bring myself to say that I'm happy to see that LSU won with a final score of 42-25. But all that being said, you can't deny the greatness that is Joe Burrow.
And well, I mean, we said it at the end of this game that watching that game, we watched the two most pro-ready college quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Lawrence, as bad as it looked like he played, you can contribute that to LSU just completely was in his head the whole game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
After the first few drives, once LSU figured out what was going on, it was just the Joe Burrow show from then on out.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Adam Amin said it 13 or I think it was Levy said 13 overthrows, and that's insane for a guy that's been so prolific and so accurate like Lawrence.
And what's so uncharacteristic of Trevor Lawrence is that you started seeing those throws like midway to later in the second quarter.
Yeah.
Like you didn't really you would expect something like that to happen, you know, final couple of minutes of the third quarter going into the fourth. You know that your back's against the wall. You got to make it to, you have to make something happen now. It's a right now type of move. And he was trying to force things even before the half, and he looked out of place. He looked out of rhythm almost from the start. I mean, it was a great offensive and defensive set for the first three series for both teams.
Yeah.
I mean, Clemson had LSU pinned inside their own 5 for the first 2 possessions of the game. And, watching the game, everyone thought, well, this is definitely not the national championship that we thought we were going to see. But once the game kind of slowed down for both teams and Joe Burrow started finding his rhythm, you saw that it was, for whatever reason, it seemed like it was just harder for Trevor Lawrence to kind of get in that rhythm of consistency.
Yeah.
And then once he found that he was matched up against a defense that kind of had, I guess you could say, the answer for any question that he threw at him, you saw him try to kind of pull rabbits, and try to figure out what he could do from out of thin air. And I think that's where you started to see him kind of break down midway through the second going into half. I think that's where the wheels started to kind of wobble a little bit, but it completely fell off midway through the third, and I think everybody saw it.
And it was the difference, and like we talked about this at the end of the game. Yes, Lawrence and Burrow are probably the two most pro-ready quarterbacks in college football right now, but the difference between the two is astronomical.
Oh, yeah.
Burrow is so head and shoulders above everyone else
that
he just dwindles everyone else's performance.
Dude, he looks so poised. Just it didn't matter what happened. He had the same look on his face.
It took Orlovsky 3.5 quarters to say what we had been saying
Exactly.
the whole time.
It
Every
was-
time they cut to him, he was just icy.
Yeah.
It looked like he had no emotion at all, and he was ready for anything.
Yeah, no emotion whatsoever.
No, and then once they got up, it was like he just got in the zone to where, okay, we're not losing this game now.
Yeah.
And now, while you were down, you expect, even while they were down, he was just so calm. As those first 3 drives when he was 4 for 9,
Right.
and they weren't going his way, it still looked like LSU was in complete control of the game. And that's not something like Lawrence. Once the wheels started to wobble for him, you saw him lose control.
Mm-hmm.
But at the beginning of the game, when the wheels were wobbling for Burrow and they had their backs against the wall the whole time, it still looked like he was in complete control.
Yeah.
And the offense trusted him. O trusted him. Brady was given all these passing techniques. They were trying to open up everything. Clemson had Jefferson completely blanketed throughout the whole game, and yet here comes Chase out of nowhere like, calm down. You got my boy on the other side. I'm going to take over now. Just give me the ball, Joe, and I'll help you do the rest. And that's what skyrocketed them in the first half. And then finally, we wrote it down. 11 minutes into the game, LSU had rushed twice.
Yeah, and still through almost the end of the game there, right before the last possession.
5 rushes for
Five
the running
rushes,
back.
yeah.
13 rushes for Burrow.
Yeah, absolute insanity. But you saw that on both sides of the ball for whatever reason. I mean, Travis Etienne had more carries, but at the same time, you still saw an overabundance almost of quarterback rushes for both sides, which seemed kind of odd given the offensive styles. But I guess if you think about it, you could almost see it coming.
Because of all the weapons outside.
Right, and because of the matchups for offense and defense.
Exactly. The one weapon they're not going to be focused on in the run game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, Lawrence busted off the big 60-yarder against Ohio State. Everyone watched that and all that. But out of all of them, you're going to worry about Etienne, you're going to worry about Ross, you're going to worry about Higgins. Even on jet sweeps and stuff like that, you're not going to be worried about the last person you're focused on as you're working from outside in.
Mm-hmm.
The last person your eyes see is Trevor Lawrence. And then by the time you see him, he's 5, 6, 7 yards down the field, and he's breaking for a first down.
Yep.
Same thing with Burrow. You're so worried about the running back out of the backfield, and then his outside weapons and Jefferson and Chase and all those guys. You're working outside in. And Burrow is the last person you see because you have to focus on those matchups so much. And Burrow and Lawrence both, you could see it right away. Bam, and then as soon as they saw that those matchups weren't what they wanted, they took off. By the time they take off, they're already 2 or 3 yards ahead of the line of scrimmage. So now, if you get to them, you're still giving up 6, 7 yards every time they start running the ball.
Yeah, and during the game, we were just watching the game, making the calls in the secondary and at the second level. You would look and you would see Clemson would be running a cover 3, and you would have a one high safety at the top, with 2 playing cushion on the outside, and all that Joe Burrow had to do, because he knew that Brent Venables was going to send at least 1.
Yeah.
And all he had
3,
to do,
sending a linebacker. So they were rushing 4, but it was really only 3 down linemen.
Right.
And then it was only really 4 or 5 at a time, to where they mainly kept a 3-man front throughout the entire game.
Yeah.
But then they'd bring a linebacker or a safety, bring it down the box, and then they'd bring the heat. But it wasn't like really the interior linemen were getting the pressure.
No, they weren't. And what really gave more so Burrow than Trevor Lawrence, but what gave Burrow the advantage is he would read the defense and he would see where the naked part of the field would be, if you
like
will.
the run that he made deep in the
right, and then essentially all you have to do then is just put 5 with 5, and then just pick your lane and go to the open field, go to where there's nobody there, because your outside receiver is going to be running off your coverage anyway, and so he would pick up a clean 6 yards on a carry. And he wouldn't even have to take a hit. He would just go down and slide, be up and done. And it was a great example of what a good offensive coordinator, and with them having co-offensive coordinators, you've got 2 minds on that side of the ball in that position, that are able to bounce ideas off of each other right in the middle of the action. And with being able to answer what Venables was able to throw at them on defense, it seemed like it got them so out of position early that Clemson had a hard time recovering, because they're just like LSU. Neither team was really used to playing from behind.
Yeah.
But it was one of those gut check moments for like a Joe Burrow to be able to say, okay, we're here. And one of the things that I noticed from really early on was there was a lot of tempo. A lot of up-tempo, let's get the ball moving, let's try to snap the ball, within 10 seconds.
And we talked about that after the first 2 drives when Clemson was moving the ball, but LSU couldn't. Mm-hmm. Why don't you slow the game down, pound the run game, get the run game going so these deep passes open up for Burrow. Right. And what did they do? After we said the 2 rushes, they come in with 2 rushes to the run. His name keeps slipping my mind.
Hilaire is the only. It's the hyphenated. But we all know who they're talking. The little bowling ball that runs with a quickness.
They bounce 2 runs out with him, and then the next thing we know, it's Chase over the top. And because just like in any game, it's just like, and we'll get to the Ravens and Titans later on, but it's just like we talked about in that game. You have to, the run game, no matter what, is going to set up the passing game. It doesn't matter what offense you're running. Mm-hmm. The run game is there to set up the passing game. And that's what was happening with Burrow was Clemson was just sitting down in their zones, especially that deep, and they were still able to rush pressure, being LSU was in their 5, inside their own 5. So they had to get out quick passes. So it was just blanketed 5 to 6 yards from the line of scrimmage.
It's just like boxing, dude.
Yeah.
It's just like boxing. If you work the body, the head will follow.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is. If you pound the rock up inside, or you're able to establish dominance on the edge, and you're able to effectively move the ball on the ground, eventually you're going to get those safeties to start creeping down for run support, and that's whenever you can go right over the top on them. If you work the body, the head will follow, and it's about it. The beauty of the game of football is it's a chess match. It's a 22-player chess match. And it's all about finding where that negative space is going to be. And if you can get the opposing team to commit to being where you expect them to be, you can put your people where they're not.
Yeah.
And that just to reinforce that whole point, you establish the run, you make it a priority, you make the defense respect it, and then from there you can go to the second and third level and make them pay on the back end.
And even though LSU didn't run the ball a lot, they had 18 carries, 13 of those were from Burrow. Even though they didn't run the ball a lot, you still had to respect it, because once they got it going and once Burrow was able to rack off yards, then everyone saw, okay, now they can run the football. So now you can't bring all this pressure that you were bringing, because then LSU's going to hit you with the draws. They're going to hit you right up the gut because you're bringing pressure outside the guards.
Right.
So then they're just going to hand it up the middle, and that little bowling ball, who, like I said, he's a bowling ball, but he has the agility of a freaking cheetah. That back cut was just breaking ankles all over the field.
Deadly.
And then
it was ridiculous.
And then Jefferson.
Yeah,
me and you both jumped up when he sent that dude 6 yards back off of that stop and go.
Jefferson's going to make a lot of money on Sundays.
Oh, yeah. And so is Chase. After this, Chase just made money right here. Because now everyone next year, I don't know what age he is,
and let's not forget about Thaddeus Moss.
Dude, he came to play. And with Dad watching, he put on a show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he showed up at primetime players make primetime plays in primetime games. Pat McAfee. Okay? That's what Thaddeus Moss did tonight. Okay? If you look on ESPN over the next week, you'll see it. Okay? You have to score points in order to score points. Okay? That's quoted from the great Pat McAfee from tonight. All right? Primetime players make primetime plays in primetime games, and that's what Thaddeus Moss did tonight.
And that's what Chase did. Chase and Moss were their weapons.
Absolutely.
And once Burrow and Coach O and Joe Brady and those guys, once they realized, hey, they're bracketing Jefferson up top. They're keeping the safety over the top of him. That means we're going to have one-on-one coverage because they never put, as you saw, a lot of times Jefferson and Chase were on opposite sides of the field because they wanted that safety that was going to cover Jefferson over the top of that corner as far away from Chase as possible. Now, all Burrow had to do was put it up because Chase was out running that corner the whole night.
Yeah, and I thought Aranda did a really good job with mixing in some design quarterback draws and some design quarterback runs to, even though you weren't handing the ball off to the running back, you were still forcing Clemson to respect the run game with those design calls. Yeah. And with that, you were still able to kind of work those coverages on the outside and try to work the ball over the top. Even if Joe Burrow wasn't able to work the ball over the top, he still found success in the middle of the field because he was able to run everybody off, and he was still having the linebackers come down towards him to cheat up on the run. So he was able to hit them over, like you said, with that 6, 7, 8 yard, or even then, sometimes he found success in the 4 to 6 yard range.
Yeah.
And if you can continue to do that and nickel and dime them all the way down the field, it only equates to one thing, and that's success.
Yeah.
The only thing that you will run into is if you have a good, disciplined, bend, don't break type of defense that you're playing against that doesn't mind giving up a 4 yard gain, but will still hold you and stand tall at the 35 yard line and force you to kick a field goal. Yes, maybe you can hang in the later moments of the game, but we just didn't see that tonight with this Clemson defense. They weren't able to come up with the answers for what Joe Burrow had and what Jason Aranda had as offensive coordinator, co-offensive coordinator, I should say. But the questions that they posed to the defense of Clemson, they weren't able to come up with the answers for, and I think we saw that very, very clear tonight, that there was a clear separation between the number 1 team in the land and the number 3 team in the land, and that's the beauty of the playoffs. I mean, we can go off on a tangent. I personally believe that it needs to be an 18 playoff. It needs to be 5 conference champions with 3 at-large bids from the Group of 5 conference. We may do another episode on that at some point here in the future in the off season. I would love to get into that, but right now the number 1 team in the land proves that they were the number 1 team in the land.
Even Orlovsky said that at the end. The best team won tonight, and not just the best team played tonight, but the best team that had played all year. Yeah. LSU had been so much better than everyone else throughout the whole year that no one saw a future of them losing the national championship game.
Right.
And at the start of this, everyone felt like, okay, well, maybe, and even you said it, LSU came in too big.
Mm-hmm.
And they were playing at home.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that. People say you have home field advantage, but when you're in the national championship, fans will travel. And as we saw, Clemson fans traveled.
And they did so very well.
When LSU was continuously backed up in the 5, you could hear boos everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And me and you were shocked at the start of that because we had said that it was such a home field advantage for them being so close to Baton Rouge and being in Louisiana. Yeah. And then we heard all the boos and we were like, okay, well, maybe Clemson fans do travel. And they show that they travel. But once Joe Burrow, that first touchdown to Chase, I feel like everyone saw, okay, this is the LSU team we wanted to see. Because you could see the confidence in Burrow and Chase. Because Chase just completely went off. Like we said, him and Moss with Jefferson being complete. Clemson's idea was take Jefferson out of the game, take Burrow's number 1 weapon, make these other guys make plays.
Yeah.
Well, they made the other guys make plays, and those guys made plays.
And when those guys make plays, it's hard to stop anything.
Exactly, because then you have to come off of Jefferson and help with those guys, and then Jefferson started making plays, and then it just compounded on each other.
Yeah.
And one thing Clemson stopped doing that we talked about at the beginning of the game on offense was they were walling up on one side. They were sliding the pocket. They were setting the edge. They were giving Lawrence an entire side of the field to work with. But then near the end of the game, you saw the pocket start to form.
Right.
And Lawrence was more in the pocket than he had been all game. And I think we saw that. I don't know if it was the offensive line getting tired. I don't know if it was game plan. But for some reason, he started to become more of a pocket passer instead of them shifting the pocket to one side and letting Lawrence work an entire side of the field with his legs, with his arm, let the receivers get time to get open. And near the end of the first half and going into the second half, it's like Dabo Swinney and them just completely lost focus of what had them winning the game and what was giving them success. And Lawrence, that's when we saw Lawrence start to get rattled, when they stuck him in the pocket and he had those defenders swarming around him instead of him having a wide open field to one side,
right,
and him just being able to stand there, look the field over, and make his decisions.
Well, I think one of the things is you take into account the adjustments at halftime. I think one of the adjustments that I saw anyway on the field was from LSU is they started blitzing the perimeter more.
Yeah.
They started bringing the outside linebackers more than they started bringing interior linemen. Obviously they would still have a 4-down lineman set, but you would be bringing a weak side or strong side linebacker rather than sacrificing the Mike to come up the middle. And once you started to get that, you pair that with your line shifts, from defensive coordinator and having a really good and smart defensive tackle that's able to call that line audible and know that, hey, we're going here, protection's being called over here. You pair all that together and you have that pressure coming from the edge, and what happens is, like you said, it takes that pocket shift away. It forces him to stay in that pocket, and it forced Trevor Lawrence into a kind of a happy feet situation, to where
which we had never seen from him before.
Exactly, and he wasn't able to really get and kind of set and kind of plant his foot into throws and that type of stuff. And I think that's why you saw him kind of forcing things as the pocket broke down, because he wasn't able to get that foot planted and really look and make that confident throw, because he was constantly worried about having pressure breathing down his neck. And I think that was a great call from the LSU defensive coordinator to be able to adjust to that and kind of dictate that edge and kind of dictate the way that they wanted Trevor Lawrence to conduct himself on the field. And we'll once we touch on the divisional recaps, you'll probably see this come up again. But one of the things that really hurt Clemson tonight was there were some key drops.
Yes.
That happened, and you pair that with the fact that you lose T. Higgins for 2 consecutive drives,
and it wasn't even they had one defensive drop that would have completely changed the dynamic of the game.
Absolutely.
That pick was a pick six all the way. There was no one that was going to catch him going the other way. Yeah. And then the defense had a blow near the end of the game, and me and you both said, okay, well, this game's probably over at this point.
Mm-hmm.
When I've
read that guy's name 17 times.
When Ski got that targeting call, which I don't believe he should have been kicked out for, when Ski got that targeting call, and then Venables had to come in. They had to make sure they mentioned, guess who's coming in? Brent's son, all this, blah blah blah. But when your leading tackler
is gone,
gets taken out of the game for something like that, it just deflates everyone else around.
It's so hard to recover.
And you saw that in the defense. As soon as that happened, that's when Burrow kind of lit up, and he was like, "Oh, this is." When Orlovsky really started talking about he's a stone cold killer, and like we said, we saw that the whole game. No matter what.
He's got shark eyes, dude. He's got shark eyes. He smelled blood in the water. He knew where the weakness was, and he knew that he was going to start attacking that weakness. And what did you see? You started seeing more throws in the intermediate, more throws in that 6 to 8 yard, slant over the middle, or that deep end.
Those crosses over the middle with Chase coming over.
A lot of mesh plays.
He was hitting Jefferson over the middle. Mm-hmm. Moss was getting his catches over the middle. And then the play at the end of the half, which everyone thought was going to be an injury, with the way he walked off, with the way he was grimacing. But to stand in the pocket
And just
and
deliver
take that hit
yes.
and deliver it to Moss right in his face.
Yeah.
Was amazing.
And it's almost unfair how open he was.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of plays and stuff, and it's one of those where you just kind of scratch your head and go, what really happened there? Yeah, what really happened there? Was it a miscommunication before the snap? Did someone just make a wrong read? But he was standing right there, and he never even moved his feet.
No.
It was just one of those things where he just kind of stood there, backyard football type stuff.
Yeah,
it was insane.
But this is one of those games to where Trevor Lawrence, we all know how great Trevor Lawrence is. This is not saying that he's not great, that he's not going to be a number 1 draft pick, but the storyline going into next season is going to be, how does he respond?
Right,
because he played, I'm not going to say horrendous, but he did not play anywhere near his best stuff in this game.
Well, and I'm probably wrong on this, but I believe that his last loss, or the last time that he had faced any type of adversity in the form of a loss, was November of 2017, something like that. Before he had even reached college. He's undefeated.
He's undefeated in college.
He's never undefeated in college.
And they even said Clemson, the most they've ever trailed by, the last time when it was 28-17, what blew my mind was they come out with a stat that Clemson hadn't been down 11 since Jameis Winston in 2013 in the national championship.
Right, yeah. I mean, and that right there, that's a dose of reality for anybody, but with Trevor Lawrence being the caliber of player that he is, I see where you're coming from, and I think it's a great question. I think you'll hear it talked about a lot around a lot of different sports outlets, whatever that may be.
But he's going to come back.
Yeah, I think this right here is his. He is the caliber of player to where I believe, and this is just my personal opinion, but I believe that he's the type of player that he will see this as a wake-up call. He will see this as a reality check. He will see this as something that, okay, I am human. I am someone who is just another player on the field. It does come up to me to make these decisions because I am the quarterback, but it also comes to me to be able to bring those up around me that need to be on the same level that I feel that we have to compete at in order to be able to get back to this championship game, because that's going to be the biggest challenge for this Clemson team next year. It's not winning the national championship, it's just getting back to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because, as we all saw this year, they were dangerously close to losing any hope to getting into the playoffs whenever they went and played at North Carolina, and Mac Brown on a 2-point play had every opportunity to win that game. If North Carolina wins that game, we're not having this conversation tonight about a Clemson team at all. No. And so that right there was the number 1 wake-up call. And I honestly, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to step out on a ledge here, but I'm going to be brave and I'm going to say this. I think if Trevor Lawrence plays anybody else in the college football playoffs for the national championship other than a Joe Burrow-led LSU, I think we're talking about Clemson being the national champion.
Yeah, you saw that against Ohio State, which was touted as probably the most complete team in college football.
Yeah.
16-0, everyone's writing them off, and Lawrence gets to show that resiliency. And we'll see. Okay, so that stat was wrong then, because they were down 16-0 against Ohio State.
Yeah, you're right.
But so we've seen it. We know he can come back from it.
Yeah.
And don't worry, Burrow. You're going to get your dose of reality. You're going to get plenty of doses of reality checks next year.
I'm so sorry, Joe.
I
hate you for being a Tiger, and you're going to go be a Bengal, and they don't call them the Bungles for nothing.
So we're going to have – so once we do our draft segment, we're going to have a segment in it called Dead on Arrival for people who are going to their teams and are probably – gonna be dead as soon as they get there. Burrow, I hate to tell you, but Joe, we know how great you are, but if Green is not healthy and he's not there, and if Mixon can't stay healthy, and that offensive line is as bad as it has been for Cincinnati, it is gonna be a rough rookie season for Joe Burrow.
It's going to be so rough. But it's going to be a testament. I think it's going to be a testament. It's going to be the prime stage for him to really let his skill set shine.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're really going to prove that I am a quarterback that you can build a team around and you can get a GM excited about bringing in players and actually wanting to go out and really delve into that salary cap, and I'd have to look and see what the Bengals salary cap coming into next year would be. But you would have to think that, with A.J. Green, like you said earlier, I think he's in free agency coming up, or his contract's getting ready to come out.
He was in talks this year. The Patriots were one of the main teams, but I'd have to go back and look, and as we get closer to the draft and closer to the NFL season again, we'll start to delve more into that. But I'd have to look back and see if it's free agency that he's headed into or if he was just in trade talks. But if Green is not with Cincinnati next year, I don't know outside of Mixon who Burrow's going to throw the ball to.
He really doesn't have anybody. He not anybody that I know of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been no top 10 receivers. There's been I don't even think there's been any top 15 receivers or top 20 receivers from the Bengals, especially from last year.
But the thing about Burrow is he is that stone cold killer, and we've seen he is that leader.
Yeah.
Is he going to attract people that's going to want to come and play for him?
I mean, and you make a great point. You really do. I mean, because we saw the same effect with Baker Mayfield. He comes in, he's got the swagger, he's got the confidence. He's cutting commercials in the stadium.
Yeah.
He's pounding beers at a Cleveland Indians game. I mean, he got everyone in Cleveland to jump on board, and you've got Jarvis Landry already there. Then you pick up Odell Beckham, who
could be leaving.
Right, yeah, who could be leaving, but the point is he was able to bring the confidence and the persona to make a GM comfortable with going out and spending the money to bring the talent in to put around him to try to get immediate success. Now, granted, we didn't see that necessarily pan out the way that we thought we were going to.
But that could be attributed to coaching as well.
And you're right.
And GMing, Dorsey was...
And a lot of people also forget that a lot of people had already crowned Cleveland at the beginning of the season. If they're going to the playoffs, we're looking for a wild card berth at the very least. We're looking at possible division champs, which is absolutely fucking ludicrous. But,
that was...
that's some of the more extremists out there. But nevertheless, there were people out there that... And people in mainstream media, by the way. Mainstream sports media.
Max Kellerman had Cleveland tagged as a Super Bowl favorite going into the year.
Yeah. And so that's the perfect example right there of if you can bring the confidence level and you can be that person that whenever you walk in the locker room, people automatically turn, they look to you for guidance, they look to you for leadership. You can convince that GM to pick up and to bring that talent level to you. And we all know that the NFL is about one thing and one thing only, and that's the almighty dollar. If you can spend the money to get yourself to that position, to bring in that talent, to kind of switch things around to bring a little bit more success, not necessarily top tier, top shelf, but to show that you're trending in the right direction, that gives you a better chance to restructure in the offseason for the next 2 or 3 years to kind of reset and put yourself down, because you've got a good rookie quarterback coming in that you can put him on a rookie contract and use those 2 or 3 years to kind of build the team up around him and then take it from that point.
And the difference between Baker and Joe, they both just let out tons and tons of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Baker is more of a loud confidence.
Right, yeah.
Baker is out in the media. He's going to talk. Burrow's quiet. Burrow's the Aaron Rodgers type of confidence to where I'm just going out there and play my game.
Right.
You can talk about me. Like Aaron Rodgers said before this playoff started, we're 13-3 and everyone's overlooking us, which is exactly how we want it. Burrow doesn't care who looks at him and who doesn't. Burrow is just here to play football.
Right.
And we've seen that the throws that he was making, he just looks bored doing it. Just like Rodgers does, like me and you said about the Devontae Adams throw that Rodgers made in the divisional game. Rodgers just
another day at the office.
Exactly, and that's what Burrow is going to bring. And we've seen most people love Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he had the falling out with Mike McCarthy, but Pat McAfee mentioned on his show some of that could have been McCarthy had been there for so long. Sometimes it becomes stale.
Right, yeah.
So, and him and Rodgers were it was mixed views, but apparently him and Rodgers buried that because after McCarthy got the job, Pat McAfee on this Friday's podcast said Rodgers texted him and said congratulations.
Yeah.
So apparently they've buried that, but Burrow brings that off on that tangent. Burrow brings that same confidence to where I know what I'm doing, and I can make any throw you want me to. And I believe that there are only 2 quarterbacks in the league that can make any throw you ask them to right now, and that's Mahomes and Rodgers. I don't believe Brady can, not at this age. Younger Brady could have. Breeze, we saw him, can't make every throw.
Right.
Mahomes and Rodgers and Russell Wilson, those 3 guys can make any throw you ask them to.
Yeah.
And so can Burrow. We saw that. He was dropping the one throw, he missed about 4 inches to the left.
Yeah, and it was the perfect over the shoulder, and it was just whatever it was that just pushed it just a little bit, just whatever spin.
And Chase just couldn't twist his body enough, which what we thought it was on Chase at first, and then once they showed the replay and we saw how far outside the shoulder it was, there was no way Chase was getting to that. But Burrow is going to come in. He's going to change. He's going to automatically change the culture, just like Mayfield did in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. But he's going to do it. I believe Burrow will do it with more success.
Right.
Because Burrow, yes, Baker was NFL ready, but Burrow is the ultimate NFL ready QB.
Oh, bar none.
And we saw that tonight.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But hey, enough about Joe Burrow. He's still a Tiger, an LSU Tiger at the end of the day, and my bias will always shine through at least a little bit when it comes to the LSU Tigers. Your final score, 42-25, LSU over Clemson for your national champions. Joe Burrow has free drinks for life in the city of New Orleans from here on out. So congratulations, as much as it pains me to say, congratulations to the LSU Tigers for winning another national championship.
That hurts.
It doesn't.
that does not feel good.
It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right.
I would rather root for Alabama in a national championship game than I would LSU.
I would rather stub my pinky toe on the coffee table than root for any Alabama, Auburn, or LSU team. And which I can honestly say I did my best, and I think I succeeded with remaining a fair and impartial judge of this game. There's just no denying the greatness that is Joe Burrow right now. You have to give the man respect. He plays the game at a whole nother level.
Yeah. So you want to transition to the divisional recap this because
let's talk about some divisional games that happened this weekend, man.
Probably pretty short because there was not a lot of fun.
Wild ass weekend.
There was not a lot of fun in it.
there was a lot of moments where just staring at the screen, going, "What is happening right now? What is this? Is this even what is going on right now?"
And I talked about it on last week's pod, the divisional projections, and me and you had talked about it over text.
Mm-hmm.
The one game that everyone was ready to see, that everyone had written them off, but we gave them the formula to win, and they put that formula into action.
Yep.
And that was the Titans-Ravens game, which is probably going to be the most talked about game for a while.
For a long time.
Even though Green Bay and Seattle were the closest of all 4 games, the most talked about game is going to be, can Lamar actually get it done, which he will. Lamar is great. Lamar is going to be great.
Yeah, he's a great player, but the thing that a lot of people, I think, overlooked in that game was the fact that, number one, Mike Vrabel coming in was blitzing 55% of the time. That equivalates to anywhere from at least one, if not 2 plays every 4 downs or 3 down series. You're going to have linebackers coming at some point, whether it be from the outside, the inside. It doesn't matter. You're going to be sending more than 4 almost every down. Okay, so what did we talk about? We talked about the ability, and I said this to Frankie earlier this week. the key to that game was, in which they were able to prove it,
the edge.
They had to contain and dictate the usage of the edge. Because as we all saw, Mark Ingram would soften them up. They would establish a controlled ground game, and they would work over the top, but there still wasn't a lot of success over the top off of Lamar's arm. What would happen is they would be blitzing around outside of the edges to try to contain, and then Lamar would hit them up in the middle for 8 to 10 yards. And then you would see defenses get off track, and they would try to compensate by coming up the middle, and then Lamar would burn them into the outside by making the pocket shift, or he would just move outside of the pocket on a design sweep or what have you. And the fact that they were able to dictate the edge, and not only dictate the edge, but the defensive tackles for Tennessee and the blitzing linebackers all played fantastic gap discipline. Because it doesn't matter if you contain the edge. If you don't maintain gap discipline and fill your gap and fill your spot the way that you need to, he's still a dynamic player like Lamar Jackson is still going to hurt you for 4 yards a down. Even if you're able to wrap him up by the ankles, he's still going to fall forward for at least 3. Yeah. And you're going to have you have to keep the pocket integrity. You have to keep the pocket's integrity, but you also have to make it to where it can implode on the quarterback, like what we saw tonight in the national championship game. In that second half, Tennessee was able to create and let that pocket create itself, but kind of let it become what it is and then fizzle out.
Yeah.
And by maintaining that gap discipline and maintaining that edge integrity, he was able to essentially force Baltimore into becoming a one-dimensional team by making Lamar Jackson have to beat you with his arm.
And I mean, and we talked about it and the announcers hit on it, but the announcers were saying it as a bad thing. We saw it as a good thing. Lamar stood up in the pocket a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He had 6-7 seconds to throw pretty much every time.
Right.
But that was Vrabel's plan.
Yeah.
Because as long as Lamar's in the pocket looking around trying to throw, that means Lamar's not running on me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you were talking about by setting that edge, creating that pocket. Tennessee created the pocket for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Baltimore was not creating the pocket.
No, you're exactly right.
Tennessee created the pocket for Lamar on purpose.
You're absolutely right. By having the defensive ends run contain on the outside and not over pursue.
Exactly.
That was the key.
They never went so far upfield to where they were behind Lamar.
Exactly.
They kept those tackles at arm's length, keeping their eye on Lamar. Wherever he moved, they were moving. And then as soon as they realized, okay, now I can come off my blocker. Mm-hmm. Because once they got their hands on Lamar in the backfield, they actually brought him down, which is not what every defense could say during the regular season. But Vrabel, who was a great defensive player for New England, he learned from one of the greatest defensive minds in NFL history, arguably the greatest defensive mind in NFL history. And I told you before this game, Vrabel was going to go back. He's going to go look at that Patriots-Ravens game, because what better person to look at than Belichick?
Absolutely.
Even though they got roasted for 38 points, there are still plays in that game that were good plays. And I said Vrabel was going to go back and look at that game. Yep. He was going to see the 4 or 5 plays that worked, and the entire defensive playbook was going to be a mix of all of those 4 or 5 plays. And another big thing that Tennessee did was they took the tight ends out of it. They were bump rushing them off the line. Mm-hmm. They were not allowing Andrews to just release. They were not allowing Hurst to just release.
Right.
And that's what threw Lamar. Lamar is used to, because Lamar's first read on every play, if it's not an option, Lamar's first read on every play is, where's my tight end?
Yeah.
Because Andrew's been his best receiver all year.
Yeah.
So that's his number one read. You take Lamar's number one read away from him, now you force him to go through his progression. You force him to become a passer instead of just, okay, my tight end's, all right, then I can run.
And that turns a 2-second throw into a 4-second throw.
So now you take the tight end away, but even in the regular season, if the tight end was taken away, Lamar had so much space in the backfield to work, and guys were rushing so far upfield, he had plenty of room to run.
Right.
Tennessee,
it didn't matter.
exactly. Tennessee took those tight ends away, but not only did they take the tight ends away with their speed at linebacker, they took those tight ends away and still kept that pocket around him so that, okay, now you have to look to your outside guys. We're not going to give you this throw. We're not going to let you run on us.
And what's the one throw that Lamar Jackson has consistently had trouble with? The outside intermediate throw. The deep out, the flag route. They knew that. And then, like you said, Vrabel went back and he looked at Bill Belichick and he looked at the Patriots defense whenever they got torched, and he looked at him and he said, okay, what worked, like you said, but he also saw a lot of what didn't work. What didn't work on defense. And by seeing what they got torched on, he was able to shore them up, because whenever they came in, whenever Harbaugh and the Ravens came in, they had a game plan that they had established, but they knew kind of where they could go as far as safety valves.
Yeah.
And I think Vrabel did a great job of taking those away.
Yeah. And then Harbaugh and Lamar, because their team was so one-dimensional.
Yes.
That's where people don't realize is, yes, Baltimore was dynamic all year. They set records. They put up points. But they were an entirely one-dimensional team. But,
absolutely.
But because you have so many games in a regular season, you're not only preparing for Baltimore at that time, you're preparing for the game after the game.
Exactly.
Belichick is the only person in the NFL that can game plan 1 week at a time.
Yeah.
And even Baltimore crushed him.
Yeah.
But in the playoffs, it's different. You don't know if that next week is guaranteed. Right. So you don't look ahead.
Yeah, it's win or go home.
Exactly. So you're able to game plan for that 1 week, and because Baltimore was so one-dimensional, Vrabel knew what he could take away that would completely ruin everything. And then insert Derrick Henry on offense, and Baltimore was loading the box.
Which in turn helped Tennessee to beat the Patriots to get to that game.
Exactly.
Because they there's no doubt in my mind that Vrabel was already preparing for Baltimore in some sense.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it wasn't priority on the list, but from going back and watching that Patriots game to see where they had failed and where they had succeeded against Baltimore, that in turn gave Vrabel the keys to beating Bill.
Because he was able to look at one game and game plan for two.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is, you can't...
And it was a perfect storm type of situation. Yeah.
Because Brady, the offense for New England put up points that game, but the defense also got torched. So then Tennessee basically has the same offense to where they're just going to run the ball down your throat, just like Baltimore is, but Tennessee doesn't have the speed that Baltimore has at quarterback.
Right.
But because, like you said, he was able to look at one game and game plan for two, he could look somewhat, keep New England in my eyesight, but I can look over New England's shoulder and see Baltimore. And I can already have my game plan ready for. And I think that's what helped Tennessee was they already knew what they were going to do before they ever got to Baltimore.
Yeah, they
knew a week ahead.
What
they were going to do.
Yeah, they had a game plan, kind of roughshod in place, and I think Vrabel knew that they were going to be able to look at the Patriots, or that game and kind of formulate a game plan off of that. I think Vrabel did a fantastic job going into it. I really do, and.
But we can talk about Lamar all we want, but the one man in that game is Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
you can load up the box all you want.
I don't think that he's a human being.
No.
I truly believe that he is the offspring of a caterpillar D9 dozer.
And the thing, everyone's like, well, why don't you load the box? Well, Baltimore loaded the box. Baltimore had 8, 9 men in the box every time.
Yeah.
But Henry's going to bounce off the first two tacklers.
When you can line up on 3rd and 2, and the defense knows you're going to run the ball, you know you're going to run the ball, and everyone in the stadium knows you're going to run the ball, and you still gain 4 yards. What do you do?
And then he was it wasn't a lot of big runs. He had one big run.
Right.
It wasn't a lot of big runs. He just pounds you for 5-6 yards every time. And he forces, and I said it on the pod last week, just like in New England, in cold weather, you don't want to tackle a 6'3", 230-pound running back.
No.
That runs a 4.4.
Yeah, that isn't afraid to drop his shoulder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In 20-degree weather, there is no way I'm hitting that man.
No. Thank you.
And my favorite video out of that game is watching Earl Thomas get spun. And one of the main things, someone commented and said, Derrick Henry stiff-armed Thomas so bad that he turned Thomas into his lead blocker. Because the picture that everyone's posting is Henry has his back on Thomas, like Thomas is out in front lead blocking for him.
Right.
And Thomas, before the game, and it really came back to bite Thomas, because Thomas said, well, New England looks like they're scared to hit him. That's not our mindset. It's different saying that than seeing that 6'3" Tonka truck, life-size Tonka truck, coming at you full speed. Yeah. This is no shade on Eric Thomas. Eric Thomas is a bad man. I wanted him on Dallas. I hate he ended up in Baltimore. But you don't talk shit unless you can back it up. And they did not.
They did not.
Derrick Henry ran roughshod.
And Derrick Henry's success on the offensive line, I mean, and Tannehill passed for, I think, less than 100 yards in that game, if I remember
2 games in a row.
And
he had 2 big plays. Which the one big play was the receiver.
Yeah.
Which we learned a left butt cheek down means that it's a touchdown.
That's a touchdown.
And then Tannehill made 1 deep throw.
Yeah.
But the only reason that deep throw was there is because Derrick Henry's behind him.
Yeah, and with Derrick Henry doing what he was doing in the back, toting the load, even on the offensive side, they essentially forced the Ravens into that one-dimensional offensive team, because with them playing the clock management game as well as they were doing, with consistently pounding the ball, they had an 8-play drive that were all run plays.
Yeah.
And ended in a touchdown.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Exactly.
And once you're able to shave that amount of time off the clock, and you're able to force them to have to throw the ball, that's where you started to see the errors in Lamar Jackson's game.
Exactly.
Which, don't get me wrong, there's not a lot of errors in Lamar Jackson's game. You have to give him credit where credit is due.
But forcing him to throw the ball a lot.
And not only throw a lot, but to throw the intermediate to deep route. And that's where Vrabel really stepped up and showed his prowess as a defensive-minded coach, is he was able to take the underneath away. And he was able to effectively put a no-man's-land stamp on the 3 to 5 yard zone from the line of scrimmage and say, you will not have success here either on the edge or inside. If you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us with your arm, you're going to beat us on the outside, and you're going to beat us on the intermediate 8 to 10 or over the top.
Yeah.
And once you get them into that right there is what spelled the doom for the Baltimore Ravens. And I think that right there is going to be a very telltale sign next year for Jackson's success, because now you'll have an entire offseason to game plan for the possible outcomes of what Lamar Jackson can do. Now, granted, you're still never going to take away his athletic ability. He's still going to be able to punish you with his feet.
But the one game that every team is going to watch
is that game.
This offseason is going to be – and we talk about him in the intermediates and the deep routes. Yes, he got a lot of soft zone coverage passes to drop in.
Mm-hmm.
But once it got down to the red zone, Tennessee stiffened up. It was that bend don't, which me and you talked about, that bend don't break mentality. Mm-hmm. We're going to allow you to get yardage. And that's, yes, he passed for 365. He ran for 160, 170 something. But they still couldn't put the points up.
Right.
Because Tennessee was like, well, you can drive – we're going to put you back at your 5. You can drive 90 yards on us, but that last 5 you're not getting, and you might as well just go ahead and kick your field goal.
Yeah, and by the way, that 7.5, 8.5 minutes that you just wasted on your drive to come away with 3 or nothing,
we're scoring a touchdown.
We're going to, and not only that, but we're going to pile on another 8 to 9 minutes.
Exactly. You just wasted a quarter, and we're up 7-3.
Exactly.
Yeah. And even the next drive, you're going to come down and kick a field goal. Guess what? We're still up a point. You just wasted another 6-7 minutes. Now we're going to go waste this other half of this quarter, and we're going to go down, kick a field goal, or score a touchdown. Guess what? We're up 4, maybe 7 points. There's nothing that Baltimore could have done. Yes, they had the drop by Andrews that ended up in the first interception. Yes, that little drop, the little drop in the soft zone. On that number 11. But at the end of the game, Vrabel outcoached Harbaugh.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think he did, yeah.
There was no – I didn't expect –
Well, you also have to give credit, too, to Tannehill. You know, like I say, he didn't throw for a lot.
No.
But when he did
he never
throw –
does.
Yeah, but when he did throw, it mattered.
Yeah.
He was able to drop it in exactly where he needed to. He was able to come up with a score, and he was able to make it. Am I thinking about that right, or am I thinking about the Patriots? No, he scored in the Ravens game, did he not? He threw a touchdown pass.
Yeah. He threw 2 in the Ravens game.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He made them count whenever they needed to. You know,
not every Tannehill is probably the only quarterback who can do what Tannehill does, and that's not saying that he's an all-time great. But what I mean by that is Tannehill's the only quarterback that can do what he does because he sacrifices so much. He's not out there to put up yards. He's not out there to put up a ton of points. He's there to manage the game.
Yep.
He's there to give the ball to Derrick Henry.
He's a steward, if you will.
And make 2 or 3 throws that matter.
I agree.
That's all he's there for.
Yep.
And you can't put a Brady in that system. You can't put a Rodgers in that system. You can't put a Breeze. There's not any other quarterback in the league really that has that kind of discipline to play the game that Tannehill does, because most other quarterbacks are going to be like, well, I want my yards, I want my stats, because I want my contract.
Mm-hmm.
Tannehill's supposed to get a contract this offseason anyways from Tennessee.
He's getting paid. Yeah, he's getting paid.
Because he does what Tennessee needs him to do.
Yeah, he's definitely getting paid.
But he's not. But Tannehill is not gonna. I want 35. I want 40 million. Tannehill knows his role. He knows the one person that Tennessee needs to retain is Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So he's never. So as long as Tannehill's there, he's not going to ask for too much money, and he's not going to ask to do too much.
I think that's a good point. I think that's a good point, and I had heard that somewhere earlier this week, even before the Baltimore game was there. It's more likely out of any available quarterback right now that's eligible for a re-sign, Tannehill will take a modest pay raise to ensure that the salary cap is there in order to keep Derrick Henry fed
and A.J. Brown
and be able to have a little bit of cap space left over so you can go out and maybe you can shore up and make a few more upgrades on defense.
Exactly.
Or give yourself an outside weapon on offense.
Yeah, because A.J. Brown needs somebody.
Yes.
It's not... Yeah. But A.J. Brown is a rookie, which is fantastic for Tennessee because that means they get 4 or 5 years out of him.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic for Tennessee because A.J. Brown really near the end of the season turned himself into one of the 7-8 best receivers in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the best deep threats in the game. Luckily, I had him on my fantasy team, and he put up points for me every week.
Right.
And I was up. He won me over 2 weeks in a row when I think he put up 25 and 30.
Right.
And I was like, all right, well, he's starting for the rest of the season. A.J. Brown turned a lot of heads this year, and it's the thing with Baltimore is going into this season, the big thing was, well, no big-name receivers want to go to Baltimore. No big-name receivers want to play in this system. If A.J. Brown can keep that mindset of, I just want to win ball games, he can thrive in this system. No, he's not gonna be an all-time leading yardage guy. He's not going to be an all-time leading touchdowns guy, but he's going to be one of the 3 most important people on the field at any given time. It's going to be him, Tannehill, and Henry. So if A.J. Brown can keep the mindset of, well, this is what we're going to do year after year, I just want to win ball games, I want to stay on this team, then he'll be great. I think he would be great anywhere else, but if he wants his best chance to succeed right now, and if he wants his best chance to succeed in the future and continue to win, this coach with this type of team that's going to utilize him as they need him, and he's going to add cushion for Henry because you have to respect Brown on the outside. If A.J. Brown can keep this mindset, I think he's just going to be one of the most important players in the league, team-wise, for his team. Now, Derrick Henry, right now, to me, won the MVP over Lamar Jackson last night. Henry was amazing. He was amazing all season. I know Lamar put up historic numbers. But if you're going to go with most important people on your team, Henry
there's no denying that.
is the most important person in the league.
And that may be all well and good, but I'm sorry. I just don't see them having an answer for the winner of the other AFC game that happened this weekend. So I texted Frankie.
21-0.
When Houston was up 21-0 over the Chiefs, and I told him I don't think I've ever seen a team lose a game in the first quarter, but here we are.
But I did not respond because I did not want to do that to Houston.
And I could not have been more wrong in my take on that. That was probably the coldest take I've ever had. But I don't think I was alone in that. I think a lot of people counted them out from the beginning, but that just goes to show that you never count any team out until the last play. The Kansas City Chiefs and Houston Texans game was absolutely wild.
Yeah, that was insane.
I saw on Twitter a guy tweet in reply to a tweet that I think Pat McAfee had sent out.
Probably.
His reply was, this game is drunk on gas station liquor. And that's exactly what this game was. It was drunk from start to finish. No one knew where it was. It was all over the place. There was no rhyme or reason, no semblance to the absolute madness that we were watching unfold in Arrowhead. But God, what a game, dude. What a game.
I could not respond. I don't know if it was because I was speechless or if I knew Patty Mahomes isn't done. It was the first quarter with three quarters left. There's no way that I can count the Chiefs out. And Romo, and I talked to you, and me and you talked about this today. I believe that Romo really is the one who kept the hope alive for most people.
Yeah, he's spoken into existence.
Being up in the booth, Romo almost talked. Yes, he seemed excited for Houston, but he was also very condescending, and he kind of looked, and you could kind of tell in his mannerisms and the way he talked, like, okay, this guy over here, this fortune teller right here, usually knows what's going to happen. So why is he speaking like this is still a ball game?
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's 21-7, it's 21-14. And you feel it, and you're listening to Romo, and you're like, this is what he saw.
6 minutes of possession to score 48 points.
Yeah. And we talk about Tennessee controlling the ball. Doesn't matter how long you control the ball if they can score in 20 seconds.
Yeah, they scored 21 points in 3 minutes. 21 points in 3 minutes. At the end of the half.
Yeah. There's no answer for their speed.
No, none whatsoever. Tyreek Hill is an absolute freak.
McCole Hardman is going to burn you everywhere. Damian Williams is starting to play ball.
Sammy Watkins is clutch when you need him.
Travis Kelce is the best tight end. Sorry, George Kittle.
Sorry.
Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the game.
Best tight end in football.
You
have it.
I love George Kittle. I love that he plays like a man possessed, but so does Travis Kelce. And when Travis Kelce decides to play ball,
I may give Kittle. Actually, I may not. I will give Kittle the edge in blocking.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
But if you need a legitimate downfield threat, someone that you can rely on whenever it's a 3rd and 6 or a 3rd and 8 and you need a first down, Travis Kelce's going to come through 95% of the time.
He's too fast, linebackers can't cover him. He's too big, safeties can't out-muscle him. And most linebackers he can out-muscle with his size.
Yeah.
And he has just like Kittle, this is not a knock on Kittle, he has so much swagger.
Oh, yeah.
He exudes confidence.
And what was crazy, man, about that whole game in the first part, and you and I both saw it, and I think a lot of other people did too, it wasn't the fact that the Houston Texans defense was standing tall. It was the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs receivers were just legit dropping balls. You know, I mean, they had open looks 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, and just straight drops. I mean, open field drops. You know, it's hard to recover from something like that. But damn it, if they didn't find a way.
Patrick, the Bill O'Brien.
I'm glad they got him out of the way in the first part of the game.
Yeah.
Because if you would have had those drops late in the third quarter and it would have been a 17-10 game or a 24-17 game or something like that, I think we're talking about a different. I truly do. I think we're talking about a different outcome right now with Houston advancing. But because they got the yips out of the way per se.
Yeah.
Once they got that out of the way, and they were able to actually establish a rhythm and figure out, hey, we are the Kansas City Chiefs. We are able to make plays. This is who we are. We forgot that we were just some badasses out here for a little while, and they were able to actually turn it on and figure out, hey, I know how to catch football. Then they were able to actually unlock it and really pour it on. I don't think Tennessee has an answer for them.
No, I don't. I mean, Henry's going to get his yards. Kansas City's going to allow that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can have your 7 and 8 minute drives.
But
we're just going to drive down and score in a minute and a half.
Exactly. And people can talk about the whole Bill O'Brien situation in Houston.
I think Bill O'Brien is packing his stuff right now.
Yeah. I believe that the only reason Bill O'Brien was a coach this year was because Deshaun Watson was so good. If Deshaun Watson was not as good as he is, Bill O'Brien was not a coach for the Texans this year.
Here's an interesting stat for you. Andy Reid is one of very few coaches. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head right now, but he is one of very few coaches in the playoffs that has been up by 20-plus points and lost, and also down by 20-plus points and won. That's insane.
Andy Reid also has the most amount of playoff games without a title.
That's true. That's true.
We can talk, and we talked about earlier, Kansas City, they have so much talent that no matter if Reid coaches badly, they can still win a ball game.
They're Leviathan. They're the 7-headed Hydra.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you have or what champion per se in a Derrick Henry that you want to throw at them. You cut one head off, you still have 6 more to contend with.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it
doesn't matter how Andy Reid is synonymous with choking.
Yeah.
He is synonymous with playoff failures. Donovan McNabb in the Super Bowl failure. But this team is so much different and so much more dynamic than what it's had in the past.
It's so stacked.
And we didn't see that at the beginning of the year. Everyone thought, and Mahomes got hurt, so everyone was like, oh no, Madden curse.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go again.
Yep.
But then near the end of the year, that Tyrann Mathieu and that defense just completely, they turned into a whole new monster. And then here come Mahomes and that offense finally starting to figure everything out. And then going into the playoffs, they were healthy. Everything was figured out. The offense is running on all cylinders. The defense is playing like one of the best in the league. Mm-hmm. And then you come in and your nerves are kind of shot because Houston puts up 24 on you
24,
quick.
Yeah.
And then
that fake punt that they tried to run whenever Sorensen made that open field tackle for Kansas City.
Yeah.
That was the definitive moment where the momentum started to swing. And I think that right there is what put Kansas City at the advantage. You know, like I had said, you know, I texted you and said that I can't believe that I've ever seen a team lose in the first quarter, but here we are. And then I was eating my words come the second quarter because whenever you saw, you literally saw a team come to life.
Yeah.
You know, and it was such a
but it was a team that never looked dead.
Yeah, and that's the thing is they, and you're right, you know, and I can't believe I was so cold on that, but you're right. I mean, they never really looked dead. It was just
they could not.
It was like the bad luck bug had bitten them. You know, I mean, you have drops, and then you know you have Travis Kelce, who's damn near automatic have a drop, and then you have to punt the ball You punt the ball away, and then the defense gets a really good stop. The Texans have to punt the ball back to the Kansas City Chiefs, and what happens? Tyreek Hill, the most dangerous returner in football, muffs the punt.
Yeah.
It just seemed like Murphy's Law was in full
Everything
effect.
that could go wrong went wrong.
Exactly.
But then 51-7. Jesus.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous.
But, and
I truly believe that the road to the Super Bowl goes through Kansas City now.
Oh, yeah, I don't see. We won't even cover the Titans and Chiefs game once we do projections because we're pretty much covering it now.
I can go ahead and tell you now, folks.
I don't see any.
If you're a betting person and you go through any sports gambling site right now, whatever the spread is for the Chiefs, I'm sure it's probably going to open up at probably -9.5. If I had to guess.
Let's see.
They should have the betting lines out by now. Hammer the over. Take the over and the points for Kansas City and just ride it out because I truly don't. Now, Vrabel's going to come with a good defensive scheme.
You're wrong.
So what's
it's only -7.5.
Oh, only -7.5.
Both games are -7.5.
Okay, so you're a fool not to take -7.5 for the Chiefs.
Yeah,
because Vrabel's going to come in with a really good defensive scheme, but I don't think there's anything that they can do to stop the amount of weapons that Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes has at his disposal.
But this is a man. Speaking of Mike Vrabel, this is a man who said, to make the Super Bowl, I will cut my own dick off.
Well, I think it's going to stay in place. I think it's going to stay in place.
But
I don't think he's got to worry about it. Now, granted, they did already beat Kansas City earlier on in the year, but I think Andy Reid has drawn up another 7,000 plays.
But that was before Kansas City was Kansas City.
And you're right. That's before they hit their stride, and Andy Reid has had ample enough time to game plan, and that's one of the things that I like about Andy Reid is he's one of the few coaches in the league now, and I think that's why that you've seen it pay off to the point of playoff bursts and playoff games, not necessarily titles. I think this year you're going to see him step up more into that head coach, the way that he needs to be, and make those calls in that crucial moment. But he's done a great job over the last 10, 15 years of adapting to his players, not making his players adapt to his coaching philosophy.
Now, we talk about failures on Andy Reid. Last year, they're 6 inches away from
literally 6 inches away,
and they probably go in and win. With the way LA played that game, they probably go in and win.
Guaranteed. I would almost bet.
Last year, I don't put that on Andy Reid. That was D Ford lining up 6 inches offside.
And you saw what happened to D Ford.
Exactly. Yeah, get him out of here. And now that defense is playing like they're a bunch of all pros.
Clicking, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we can talk about Andy Reid all we want, but he's got the weapons now that he can make coaching mistakes down the line, and Patrick Mahomes is still going to make a play for him.
And you shore up the secondary, which was one of your big holes from last year. You shore up your secondary with Tyrann Mathieu.
Exactly. Who is a quarterback on defense.
Oh, absolutely.
He knows where everything. He knows what we saw it at LSU.
He's the AFC's Richard Sherman.
Yeah, we saw it at LSU. We saw it in Arizona, but he wanted out of Arizona because Arizona couldn't put a team around to win.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyrann Mathieu, being from LSU, all he knew was win. And once he got to Kansas City, yes, the defense was a little stale at first, but Tyrann Mathieu became the quarterback. He became that leader, and now they're playing like it's 11 All-Pros on defense. And it's the Honey Badger. It's like he brought a whole new life to the defense now, and now they're clicking. I don't see anybody.
I think if you look, I think you see Kansas City as the best put-together team this year. And if you have those positions that are able to play off of each other and work off of each other in tandem, no matter what the situation, as they proved yesterday, it's hard to find a way to beat them.
Yeah.
And so I think we're both in agreement that it's going to be a Kansas City Super Bowl berth
I think it's going to be a Kansas City Super Bowl win.
I would be inclined to agree with you on that. And I'm not just trying to be an appeaser here, but I really do think that they have the best legitimate shot at winning the Super Bowl this year. I think the only team that has a chance, and they're my NFC pick, is the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
I think
we're in agreement on who we think is going to be in the Super Bowl then.
Okay.
But
so you think it's going to be a Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl?
I don't think San Francisco can. But I don't think the San Francisco, because San Francisco doesn't have the weapons on offense that Kansas City does.
No, they don't. And let's be honest here. We all knew what was going to happen in San Francisco whenever the Vikings came to town.
Well, we all knew what was going to happen when Kirk Cousins in the locker room after that win, wild card weekend.
Yeah, over the Saints.
You like that.
Yeah.
If you're going to come out with that again, you better go on and win the fucking Super Bowl.
Oh, it was basically a carbon copy of the Baltimore Tennessee game. You basically just cut, copy, and paste that same scenario into San Francisco and why did I just blank? Minnesota, and flip the roles, and we all knew that the offense for the Minnesota Vikings ran through one person and one person only, and that's Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, but it's not like they completely shut Dalvin Cook out. You could have ran him more.
Right, but they didn't.
It's like, that was the problem with Zimmer at the beginning of the year, was he was running too much.
Mm-hmm.
And the ball wasn't getting in Thielen and Diggs and Rudolph's hands. And that's what Zimmer is he's a running defense coach.
Right.
Then you get in the playoffs.
But it's win or go home in the playoffs.
But you get in the playoffs and you completely abandon what helped you win.
That's what I'm saying. And he forced himself into a one-dimensional team again.
Because he had heard so much from Thielen, Diggs, and Cousins.
Yep.
But the one person that drives your offense, and it's in most cases in the NFL, is your running back.
Mm-hmm.
The best running back's going to drive your offense. Even in Green Bay, Aaron Jones, with the running dynamic that he brought to them this year, he has powered Aaron Rodgers this year to be better.
No, that's a good point. But you also have to look at the quality of offensive linemen that exist in comparison from Minnesota to Green Bay. Because Green Bay's offensive linemen, in my opinion, are vastly superior.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we see the results because the Green Bay's going to the NFC Championship game. But at the same time, they're not only able to pave the way for Aaron Jones, they're also able to effectively protect Aaron Rodgers.
And you got to look at that San Francisco front seven is just awe-inspiring.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to get to the backfield. Bosa is a game record.
Yeah,
both Bosas are game records.
You're going to have some success running away from Bosa. But even if you do run away from Bosa, you still have Dre Greenlaw,
exactly.
Shoring up that second level.
Arkansas,
that's coming, and he's going to be coming with the full intent of a tackle for loss, or he's trying to separate ball from carry.
Yeah.
So you have to account for at least both of them. And then even if you do find success and you're able to try to work something over the middle or over the top, whether it be intermediate or even on a hitch route, even on a crossing route, you still have, in my opinion, the greatest defensive back in the league right now in Richard Sherman.
Oh, yeah. And he's proven that this year, because later in his Seattle tenure, as the Legion of Boom was getting broken up, everyone was like, well, he's not as good as he used to be. He doesn't have Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas and those guys across from him.
Yep.
Richard Sherman has blossomed again. Now, albeit he has a great defense around him, but to be a great defensive player, you have to have a great defense around you. Because you can't be isolated, because if you're isolated, they're not going to throw to you. And that's why you see a lot of cornerbacks, a lot of the great cornerbacks don't have a lot of picks.
Yeah, and San Francisco's got a great setup right now on their defense because you have leadership at all three levels of the ball defensively. You've got Bosa on the line. You've got Dre Greenlaw.
And even though Greenlaw and Bosa are young, they've become the leaders of those groups.
Exactly, and because they've backed it up with their level of play. And then you've got Sherman, who is essentially the team leader. I mean, he's calling it up in the locker room at the end of the game.
And he's arguably the best defensive. He's arguably the best secondary player in the league. Has been throughout his entire career.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he can play zone. He can play man. It doesn't matter what you put him in. He reads the ball so well. Like the pass that he picked off from Cousins. I don't know what happened. I don't know if Thielen stopped his route or what. But Sherman was there before Thielen even thought about it.
No, dude, that was all Sherman. That was all Sherman. That was all a product of game tape study. It was all a product of watching the drop and knowing that if he takes a 3 or a 5-step drop that he's probably going here as opposed to here. He made his pre-snap checks, dude, and he jumped that route like a pro. Yeah. That was straight because I watched the replay on it. I backed it up and watched it again. He had that play sniffed out from Jump Street. He jumped the ball and made just a fantastic,
And you saw even Thielen was surprised. Like Thielen
he was like, what the hell?
Yeah, because Thielen stopped. He didn't even chase after him on the pick.
Yeah.
As soon as Sherman caught the ball, Thielen just stood there like, what just happened?
Yeah. Okay, I guess this is me now.
And then he just started jogging to the sideline. Like, I don't know what happened.
Guess this is me now.
But yeah, that was just this was not really the only really good game was Packers Seahawks.
So be honest. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way now. I have my own view of it, but I want to know yours because we didn't talk about it. Did he get the first down or didn't he?
I don't think.
Because I think he did.
From the angles that they showed, I don't think there was enough to overturn it anyways.
I agree, but even still,
because that yellow line is not official, you can't go by the yellow line. I hate when they show the replays of the yellow line,
and I hate when people bring that up in a conversation as an argument point of, well, it didn't get past the line. Every single game, it doesn't matter what media outlet you watch it on.
Steve
ABC,
Levy
CBS,
tonight.
It doesn't matter. Fox, ESPN, it doesn't matter. Every single commentary group will tell you the exact same thing. The yellow line is not accurate. It's not. They tell you straight up.
And that's why they showed it.
And if you pay attention on the field, you can see the delineation between that little placard that they put down on the sideline and the actual yellow line that you see on the field. And according to that little placard that was sitting on the field, Jimmy Graham was the one that caught the ball.
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham was the one that got the first down.
Because if from the sideline view, it definitely looks like he's past 36.
Mm-hmm.
From the yellow line view, it's hard to tell anyways because there's no way that you can see where the ball is.
According to the yellow line view, he's short.
Yeah, but you also can't see where the ball is. You can see where his shoulder drops, but you don't know if the ball is out a little bit farther under his chin.
Right, so you have to go by...
Exactly.
Yeah, you have to go by shoulder contact.
There was no way to tell. The refs have been terrible this year in the NFL. They don't know what they're calling, what they're not. Alberto Riveron is absolutely horrible at his job. We all know that. Pat McAfee tells us every week.
You can expect there to be...
But that was the first down.
At the very least, major conversations go on this offseason.
I think they're going to take away the pass interference thing.
I do too.
About the replay.
I do too.
Because the officials clearly are not caring about what the replay says. They're just going with what their gut check tells them anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the first down. Seahawks fans, you weren't coming back in the game anyways, more than likely. They were going to run enough time off the clock to where I love Russell Wilson, and he showed fantastic moxie, and he showed how resilient he is in this game. I thought that they were done.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Russell Wilson for trying to...
But he has nobody. The run game can't get going. That offensive line can't block for him because he's running for his life.
Marshawn Lynch had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, but right near the... they're not busting off big gains like they need to.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
And the offensive line, yeah, it's easy. I can give Marshawn Lynch the ball on the 6-yard line. He's going to give me a touchdown. But The offensive line can't protect him. He gets hit more than almost any other QB. He's running for his life everywhere.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I mean, almost as soon as he completes his drop back, he's already flushing.
Exactly.
He's already flushing out
He
of the
hits
pocket.
he hits a 3-step drop and he's already having to roll out.
Yeah.
And you can't win that way.
Yeah.
And I know Pete Carroll and them are going to address it in the draft. They're going to address it in the offseason. But that's their main weakness. I believe Chris Carson can be a good running back. And I don't think Lynch is going to stay. I think this was just kind of, okay, I'm going to come in and see what I can do, and then I'm going to leave.
Right.
But I think Carson and Penny are very good running backs. They just need a line that can block for them.
Right.
And Wilson needs a line that can block for him. Because Lockett and Disley, their tight end, and Metcalf on the outside so you got to make yours about the Chiefs game.
All right.
This is mine about DK Metcalf. I would like to apologize to DK. I told Carver this when the draft came up, that he was a combine hero, but his injuries were going to be the reason that he would slip and that he would not have an effective NFL career. Boy, was I wrong.
The news came in.
So far,
DK Metcalf
is a man.
Grown-ass man.
DK, now, hopefully he stays healthy, but what he was able to do opposite Tyler Lockett
As a rookie. Golly.
I sincerely apologize to any DK fans, any Ole Miss fans, and DK himself. I was sincerely and completely wrong so far.
Yeah.
We're only in his rookie year, but so far I was wrong about him. And I believe that if this is the trend that we're going to see from him, we're looking at all-time status.
He's on track. I'm not going to crown him just yet because I'm not that type of dude that crowns people in their rookie years.
No, because we've seen too many busts.
There's way too many busts. You've got that sophomore slump that always comes around, and you're always going to have at least some dip in performance from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether it's a phenomenal performance or a mid-tier performance. You're always going to have some sort of slump because that you still have that off-season from your rookie to sophomore year that people have to prep for you. So you're going to have to change your game in some aspect.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're going to see out of DK Metcalf next year. Maybe we see him completely turn it up to another level. I mean, this off-season, if the combine has been any indication of the type of specimen that we see on the field, maybe he unlocks some new level. Who knows? And if that's
what other levels? The man's like 6'6". He's a fucking tank, and he runs a 4.3.
I'm telling you, man. I'm just saying. I think there's going to be a lot of defensive adjustments for him, which plays off of your earlier point, though, that you're alongside Tyler Lockett.
And Disley in the middle is a tight end who actually became a very good weapon for Russell Wilson later in the year.
Yeah.
So, as long as I believe that Metcalf can blossom into a number one guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that he can't, but at this stage of his career, in his rookie year and moving forward, the best course of action for him in these first few years is to be there alongside Tyler Lockett, alongside Disley, with a quarterback like Russell Wilson, learning from all those guys and being opposite those guys, because even though DK Metcalf was as dominant as he was, he's still not going to get the attention because Tyler Lockett is still Russell Wilson's number one target. He's still Russell Wilson's number one guy. And with Disley running routes over the middle, it opens up that outside stuff for DK. It opens up those jump balls one-on-one with 5'10", 5'11" corners that he's going to just put his hand on them and say, "Sit down, child," and go up and get the ball.
I still think you see a dip in his performance.
Oh, yeah.
This year, though.
It's sophomore.
I really do.
Sophomore slump is real.
Yeah.
We see it in most everybody.
So we've got we've pretty much laid out the entire landscape of what the NFL playoffs looked like and are going to look like in the conference championship games coming up. You've got the Tennessee Titans playing in Arrowhead at Kansas City, facing that stellar team that, in my opinion, is frankly just a juggernaut. There's nothing that you can do to stop them.
Kansas City's covering.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that you can do to stop that team. I think Kansas City covers the 7.5 with no problem whatsoever. I think they march on, and they end up Super Bowl bound by leaps and bounds.
The over/under is 52.
I think you're going to probably want to take. I don't
know if Kansas City.
I think I'm going to take. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to take the over on the points, but I'm going to take. I'm going to take the spread. I'm going to take the 7.5 for the Chiefs, the -7.5. But I'm going to bet the under on that game because I think that even though that offense is so explosive and so dynamic, I still think that you see a lot of the clock get chewed up by
Tennessee's going to control the ball enough to where they're not going to put up a ton of points
because that's their brand this year. I mean, it's who they are. They're hanging their hat on Derrick Henry, and honestly, and I hope this does not happen. I'm not trying to speak anything into existence whatsoever. But if for whatever reason that Derrick Henry happens to have to come out of the game or goes down, I think you see the Tennessee Titans go completely cold.
Yeah.
I really don't think you have a pulse after that.
Yeah, because then it goes on the back of A.J. Brown and Ryan Tannehill.
And they don't have enough to get it done.
Yeah.
Especially not against that secondary.
And plus, they're going to bring the house.
And with the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers playing in the NFC Championship game, I think Aaron Rodgers is one of the best to ever play the game.
I think he's the greatest. Not the greatest of all time. He is the most talented quarterback we have ever seen. He looks bored. No other quarterback looks bored.
Yeah, but facial expressions and yards on paper are two different things. I personally, I would put Drew Brees just a step ahead. But I will not deny that he has been one of the greatest to ever step onto a football field. I mean, he's a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't take that away from him. He's done more with less for quite a few.
Never had a running game in his entire.
Yeah,
he had Eddie Lacy
for quite a few many years. Yeah, and he had Eddie. Yeah, you're right. With Eddie Lacy only being there for a year, I don't think they have the weapons around them. I mean, Devontae Adams is a great receiver.
And
he is one of the best to be on the field. You've got Jimmy Graham at the tight end spot,
who has been reincarnated this year with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback. And Jimmy's been able to stay healthy. Aaron Jones is able to run the ball.
Right.
Opens up stuff for Graham. Devontae on the outside.
But I think you're going to run into a situation to where this Green Bay offense is facing the complete defensive unit of the San Francisco 49ers. And honestly, the more that I sit here and I think about it, Frankie, I really believe that yes, Kansas City is probably going to be the Super Bowl champions. If I'm just going to step out on a limb with you and we'll both stake our claim on Kansas City. But I really do believe that Kansas City is going to have to earn it. I don't think they're going to.
It's not going to be it
because the best defensive matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs is the San Francisco 49ers. And granted, we're talking like we've already crowned the conference champions. These are brazen, bold picks. We all saw this last weekend that anything could happen because one of my Super Bowl teams have already been eliminated by the Tennessee Titans.
I called that one. I called that one. Everyone was crowning Baltimore, and I said, do not. And I laid out because me and you talked about it, I laid out the game plan for them. And I said, if they can execute Order 66 here, then.
Well, I mean, I also had said, about one of the keys to the game being dictating the edge, and they did that. I just said that and knew that it was a key to the game, but I never once thought that they would be able to do it. But they did it, and here we are. But I really do believe that Kansas City rolls over Tennessee in the AFC Championship game, and I believe that Jimmy Garoppolo with George Kittle. And
Emmanuel Sanders.
You have Emmanuel Sanders,
Breda and Mostert out of the backfield have been dynamic as a couple.
Yeah,
I love Green Bay, and I love what Aaron Rodgers has been able to do. I've always been a huge fan of his. I've been a fan of Drew Brees, but watching Drew Brees in these playoffs, in that one game against the Vikings is why I'm able to put Rodgers over Breeze now. But the 49 Jimmy G's playing with too much right now.
They're just clicking too well.
Yeah,
they're a well-oiled machine, and
Patriots
I think we
fans
saw
are kicking
them.
themselves, and Patriots fans are like writing death threats to Robert Kraft.
And I really think that the 49ers really came into their own and found their stride at the end of the regular season against that Seahawks team.
Yeah.
And I think that's whenever they actually stepped up into the role that they're fulfilling now and said, this is who we are, this is our identity, this is what we hang our hat on. That stop by Dre Greenlaw, I think, set the tone for the San Francisco 49ers for the entirety of the playoffs up into the Super Bowl. I think that San Francisco doesn't roll personally. Who's favored in that matchup? Is
San Francisco by 7 because
by 7.5?
It's in the Bay Area.
Okay, so I'm personally I would take San Francisco, but I wouldn't go 7.5. I would look for them.
I'm taking Green Bay. I'm going to get those 7.5 points with Green Bay. They're going to cover that. I believe it's going to be close enough. Green Bay's going to cover that 7.5.
Yeah.
I'm not taking the minus 7.5 for San Francisco,
right.
But I'll definitely take the plus 7.5.
Yeah.
On Green Bay.
Yeah, I would definitely bet a plus 7.5 for Green Bay to cover. What's the over under on that one?
Over under for Green Bay and San Francisco is 45.
So I'm going to say. Ooh, is it 45 flat?
45 flat. I'm taking the under. I don't think that.
Yeah,
I think that it's going to be a better defensive. I think it's going to be definitely a defensive battle at times, but I think that both offenses will get their haymakers in. But I don't think it's going to be enough to warrant taking the over on the 45.
Yeah, I see.
Because those two defenses, Green Bay's defense is playing with a lot of confidence right now, and San Francisco's defense is just complete all around.
So we've got Kansas City as the favorite and betting the under on the AFC Championship game, and we've got Green Bay to cover 7.5 with the under for the NFC Championship game. And I think you see, obviously, from those two picks, you see a Kansas City Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl, and I think that there's just too many variables on that Chiefs team to try to stop, and I think that Patty Mahomes in his second year, I think he avenges that bungled play from last year, and he takes it all the way, and I think they captured their first Super Bowl since '69.
Now this is a huge game for State Farm, though.
yeah.
This is tremendous for State Farm.
Yeah, that's the winner throughout all of the conference championship weekends. State Farm.
If Kansas City and Green Bay make it to the Super Bowl, State Farm is just going to make some money off of commercials.
Man. It's going to be such.
Mahomes versus Rodgers.
That agent character is going to.
He's going to go ballistic.
He's going to be a national treasure. He's going to be a national
if he's not
treasure.
already, but watching Green Bay and Kansas City play the way they've been playing, State Farm has got to be fantastically thrilled with the two that they've picked to be their cover guys.
So I tell you what, man, talking about the NFL and all that, I think we pretty well covered everything whenever it comes to the NFL. I think we pretty well knocked it all out of the park. I think we will touch on real quick, just to give you guys a quick little preview of, by the time you guys get this, it'll be Tuesday, and we'll give you a little bit of a preview of the game coming up tomorrow from Tuesday's perspective. Arkansas basketball right now is 13-2, and they're headed back home after a rough, ugly, rough and tumble win on the road in Oxford at Ole Miss.
My thoughts on that whole game was, and I told you this before the season started, and me and you both said we were holding back our excitement over Musselman
until they got into league.
I'm okay with watching them. I don't really watch them outside of SEC play, because usually Arkansas does good outside of SEC play anyways.
Plays like shit
but then
in the SEC, yep.
But Musselman, when they were down to Ole Miss and the way they were playing and they weren't getting shots to fall, I was like, oh, this is exactly how I saw this SEC season going. And then Musselman and Joe. Musselman with his energy on the sideline, and then Joe just putting the team on his back.
Yep.
They powered themselves back.
They gritted themselves to a win.
They made me believe that, okay, maybe this team is legit now.
Yeah, but we can't deny the fact that they are suffering in the post.
Yes,
they
don't
are
have a big
suffering. Yeah, they are suffering in the post. They're suffering on the board.
Vanover not being able to play this year,
it was huge.
Hurt us.
It was so huge,
hugely.
Oh yeah,
because we're playing with basically 5 guards on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we're spreading the floor out.
Quintessential small ball.
We look like an NBA team out there right now. Everybody's outside. No one's posted up. We don't have anybody who can rebound. We're getting out rebounded every game.
You're running perimeter picks is your only plays.
Exactly.
You're not slashing. I saw very, very little. Did I see? I don't think I saw a single slash or cut to the basket. Unless it was in transition throughout the Ole Miss game. Whenever you set it up on the floor, it almost seemed like they were running pick and pops and trying to set up a lot of ISO plays. And that's not. I'm sorry, it's just not going to get it done in SEC play.
No, not when you get to the big dogs.
Yeah. Not
when you get to guys like Kentucky and Auburn and Georgia and people like that. They're not going to allow you to just sit back and do the stuff you've been doing.
Yeah.
Florida, guys like that, they're too well coached. Now, do I see us making the NCAA tournament? I see us winning enough games, and Indiana helped us out.
Oh, sure.
With the Ohio State win.
Absolutely.
I see us making the NCAA tournament.
If only because this year, for whatever reason, the remainder of the league outside of Auburn is just subpar.
Yeah.
Subpar.
And everyone's getting beat on any given night. It doesn't matter who they're playing.
Yeah. This college basketball season has been wild.
Yeah.
Just it's
been March Madness all year.
Yeah, no kidding.
And that's insane to think about. But outside of Auburn, you're right. Everyone's pretty much been up in the air. You don't know what's going to happen on any given night. So I think that's the way Arkansas gets in, probably as a 12, 13 seed. I don't think we're getting in any higher than that unless we just...
Well, they're a 6 seed as they stand right now.
Yeah.
Right now, they stand as a 6 seed.
They may change.
And they have a number 25 ranking in the net.
Yeah. But I just don't see, as we get deeper, when boards matter and when big men matter.
As the season progresses and the team starts to wear down.
Yeah.
That's something I was thinking about earlier today was... I don't know what's going on, and I am not even going to attempt to try to say that I know or make a guess. But I believe that there's something personally, mentally happening with Reggie Chaney right now that is affecting his game to the point that he is not contributing in the way that most people expected him to this year, coming back and having the ability to really get out there and be that standalone returner to come back and try to make a mark. I've seen a lot of things on Twitter earlier this week, and especially after the Ole Miss game on Saturday. They're saying that so one guy had to take that he thought that Mason Jones hurt the team more than he helped him. I think that's absolutely ludicrous. The man still had 9 assists during the game, even though he didn't score. But I think it was 8 or 9 points. He still had almost a double-double just based off of assists and points alone. So you can still impact the game without having to score. And Isaiah Joe, 38. But that's another thing that I was thinking about was they have to get more production out of Reggie Chaney in the post, and if they do that, I think that gives you a chance to win. Not many more. I'll say probably 2 or 3 more games in SEC play, but you have to have that production. You have
two or three more than what they were projected, or 2 and 3, or 2 or 3 more from the 2 they already had.
2 or 3 more from
what they could win.
From what they could win without Chaney. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think they'll at least break 500 in SEC play.
I had them breaking even.
Yeah.
I personally had them breaking even.
They'll at least break 500 in SEC play, and I think that'll be good enough. If they last now, if they're out in the first round of the SEC tournament, they're not. I don't think they're getting in.
Yeah.
That's because the SEC is not the Big Ten.
I personally had them picked for an NIT tournament this year. I think they go 500 in SEC play. And honestly, at this point, I think a lot of Hog fans can be, not to swallow it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want it to come off as being complacent and just accepting, but I think that fans can be okay with having a 500 SEC record. 500 meaning winning half, losing exactly the same half. I think if you go 500 in SEC play this year, it's a good foundation to build upon.
Yeah.
But
it's a good first year for Musselman.
Yeah.
After what people can talk about Anderson all they want and his winning percentage and all that, but the man just could not get it done. Mm-hmm. Me and my dad had talked about this numerous times. Before he got his extension, I wanted Anderson out. Mm-hmm. And a lot of Arkansas fans felt the same way, but the masses, because he had Nolan Richardson's backing, because he had, that history behind him, because he was there with Nolan during the national championship, they held on to him a lot longer than they needed to. And it's kind of like the Houston Nutt situation. When you're royalty in Arkansas, they treat you like royalty.
Yes.
And they hold on way too long.
Yeah.
Yes, Nutt gave us 2 SEC West titles, but at the end, when the league was leaving him behind and Malzahn came in and showed him what the future looked like, he still tried to play in the past, and that's why we went from an 8-0 top 5 team in the country that year to losing 3 of our last 4 and getting beat by Wisconsin in the bowl game.
Right.
So Arkansas has had a problem with history and royalty.
Yeah.
And that's why Anderson.
I agree.
And now that's why
agree.
I love having Musselman here.
I love the fresh blood that's just being pumped through the entirety of the program.
Yeah.
I mean, you leave Dave Van Horn where he's at with baseball. We don't need to touch
Dave
that.
Van Horn, gymnastics, swimming, they all stay over there in their little boat.
Right. Basketball needed it was a much needed injection of new lifeblood. The football program needed to be completely revamped, and we'll touch on that in another episode. That'll be something that it'll probably be another 2.5 hour episode of strictly just football, recruits, coaching. We'll go over the coaching changes.
We'll probably cover that
after signing day, more than likely,
and possibly we might want to hit on it once we get to see them in action, like in the spring game and stuff. Because I want to go see the spring game in person.
I do too. I think that's something we should do together.
Yeah, that's way we can see them in action, and then we can do a 2-hour-long pod of just straight what we saw there, what the recruits look like, and what the coaching staff is going to look like they're going to be doing this year.
Yeah. So going back to basketball and looking forward to this Vanderbilt matchup, tomorrow. From Tuesday, tomorrow at 7:30 p.m., Vanderbilt will travel to Bud Walton to take on the Razorbacks. And one of the key things that I'm sure a lot of Hog fans have already heard about is the fact that Aaron Nesmith, Vanderbilt's leading scorer, averaging 23 points a game, is out now with an injury. And his stats so far through this year was 23 points a game averaged. He was also averaging almost 5 rebounds a game at 4.9 and just under 1 assist per game, and was shooting 51% from the floor. So this takes up a lot of this took up a lot of Vanderbilt's scoring power, because your next 2 leading scorers were Lee and Pippen Jr. And Scottie Pippen Jr. Mm-hmm. And Lee was averaging 15.7 points a game. Pippen averaging 10.7 points per game. And then your next best forward, which was what Nesmith was, or is rather, is Brown, and he's only averaging 9 points a game, but he's also averaging 6 rebounds a game. So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a rebound matchup. I think it's going to be another battle of the boards like it was in Oxford. And in Baton Rouge. I think that teams have figured out what the key to success is against the Arkansas Razorbacks now. And I think it's becoming more of a shooter's game on the Razorback side. I think you're having to put the ball in your playmakers' hands, and you're relying on them to hit consistently from beyond the arc. But just based on the fact that they're losing a guy who was, almost 8 points higher than any person else on the team, and averaging 23 points a game, I think that's going to be a big deciding factor. And they're on the road at Bud Walton. I call me a homer, but with the grit that they've been playing in the last couple of games I think Arkansas has an opportunity to go 14-2 after tomorrow, going into a massive Kentucky weekend.
If we're going to learn anything about Arkansas this year, it's going to be this weekend against Kentucky.
You can't understate how massive this weekend is. Not only is Arkansas playing Kentucky, they're playing Kentucky at Bud Walton. And at the same time, they're hosting 10-plus, 3-4, and I believe 1 5-star. I think I saw somewhere earlier a news report that 5-star visit was canceled because his local high school's game was canceled due to the tornadoes and bad weather that was going through that area. But it's still 10-plus vital recruits for the Arkansas football program are going to be on campus for their official visits this Saturday. And what better way than to see, how a fan base reacts than to put them in front of quite arguably the biggest basketball rival for Arkansas at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. And, in January, right before signing day, or thereabouts, a couple of weeks before signing day. I think it's huge. I think it's absolutely huge. I think that Arkansas can't get caught looking ahead from Vanderbilt. I think they have to, like Musselman said in his press conference. They're only focused they're only focused on Vanderbilt. It's the most important game on their schedule right now, and I think that's the way that you have to approach every game. But you can't understate the magnitude of this Saturday.
And speaking of football, big news broke about an hour and a half ago that Briles is one of his players at Houston, which it was rumored, it was pretty much guaranteed. De'Aaron King, quarterback from Houston, has entered the transfer portal. And the number one team on everybody's radar, on everybody's list, because Briles is with us now, is Arkansas.
Yeah.
What better person? I don't know if KJ is ready to take over a team yet. Maybe he is under Pittman. He wasn't under, which we're not even worried about that man anymore. But
right.
Maybe it's better if King does come here, and because him and KJ are basically the same type of QB.
I mean, and you look at what De'Aaron King was able to do in 2018 under Houston, with having that success. I mean, they were averaging it was almost 44 points a game, 45 points a game. Good for top 5 offense in the country. I don't see how it could possibly at all be a bad thing. I mean, the fact that you're returning Rakeem Boyd just in and of itself.
Thank goodness.
Thank
you.
Thank goodness.
Thank you,
Rakeem Boyd. Thank you. Thank you. As a Hog fan, I appreciate you. I want you to know that. I appreciate you.
Woods, who's become a master recruiter.
Oh yeah, an ambassador for the program, and you put him with these young studs in the receiving corps that are coming up.
Knox and my hometown boy Bert, who I actually grew up and got to see. He went to high school 12 miles down the road from me, and I actually wasn't really friends with him, but I kind of got to know what kind of kid he was. And I told everybody going into this year, watch out, because he's going to show you a lot of special stuff, and he showed us on the return game, he showed us in the passing game. He's going to be a special player in the right system.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think Pittman is going to put an emphasis on him and Knox.
Mm-hmm. Even
though Woods is a junior and Woods has put in the time, I think that I think that they both know, Pittman and Woods both know, that the two best and most dynamic and most prolific receivers they have are Knox and Burke.
And I think you're going to see an offensive scheme from both Kendall Briles and Sam Pittman that works on that same boxing philosophy that I had talked about in the beginning of this video. If you work the body, the head will follow. You've got Rakeem Boyd coming back, and then you've got Amonte Spivey that's returning, and then you've got this guy Traylon Smith, who is a running back transfer from Arizona State that came to Arkansas last year and had to sit out for eligibility reasons, and he was most commonly referred to by all of the coaches on Chad Morris's staff. When they referred to him as far as giving a description, they said one thing and one thing only: he flows like water. He's able to get into the second level quickly. He's able to bounce and shed himself around blocks and get up underneath blockers. He's able to get into the pile and just kind of squirt out of the pile and find the smallest of cracks, the smallest of seams, and just kind of jam his way through and get through. And his movements are fluid. I think with those two as a combination in the backfield, I think those two together, Rakeem Boyd and Smith, will be an absolute powerhouse in the backfield. I believe that you've already got a 1,000-yard rusher in Rakeem Boyd. I really do believe that there's a good chance that Arkansas football could have 2 1,000-yard rushers this coming season.
Because Pittman's going to put an emphasis on the line.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's what he does. And I think another thing that you're going to see, unlike Morris, Pittman is going to be very energetic. He's going to be very emotional. We saw it when he was the offensive line coach at Arkansas. He had those all. That's when we were one of the best offensive lines in the country. He had the Hogs up front, completely blowing holes through everybody and giving us chances to win. But another thing that we're going to see that we didn't see with Morris is Pittman's going to have his QB. He's going to know who his guy is going into the season. It's not going to be this just quarterback carousal and let's see who pans out here, let's see who pans out there. No. I think that Pittman is going to find his guy quick. Probably it won't be till after the spring game when he sees how they perform against a live defense.
Mm-hmm.
But Pittman will find his man and he will stick with him unless it gets too horrible to where he has to yank him.
Man, I tell you, I'm loving watching this Arkansas basketball season unfold, but I absolutely cannot wait for Arkansas football. I can't wait for it, and I can't wait to get into it with you guys next time. Frankie, thank you so much for having me on the pod, brother.
Thank God.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to get on this time and actually kick this thing off right with my little brother over here. And if you guys have stayed with us this long throughout the video, thank you so much for sitting and watching. We are just getting this thing started. We are by no means over. We're not done with this. We are just beginning. For those of you who are getting in on the ground floor right now, I can't wait for you guys to start and continue this journey with us. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. I know Frankie does too.
Oh, yeah.
Be sure and hit the like button. Subscribe down below, ring the bell so you get notifications every time that we put a new video out. Leave a comment down below and let us know what you think about the possible matchups or the matchups coming up in the championship games, and let us know what you think, who you think will be in the Super Bowl, and what you think your outcomes will be. Also, let us know what you think that Hog basketball is doing, or just college basketball in general. We'd love to know what you guys think and what your takes are on things. We're all the time bouncing ideas off of each other, so we would love to know what you guys think as well, and who knows, maybe you guys may have an angle that we haven't thought of, and we're always open to new and different opinions, so long as they're just not blatantly ice cold.
And just let us know, what you want to see week in and week out. What content you want to see. I know that we harp on football a lot, but right now that's the main thing. Once football season's over, we'll get into more basketball, NBA, college, stuff like that. I'm more the baseball guy, so once MLB season rolls around, I'm pretty sure Carver will do his homework.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do a lot.
Like he always does. But
I'm going to have to do a lot.
I am the baseball guy. For you Houston Astros fans out there, or you Houston Astros people in the organization, thank you for possibly getting my Red Sox manager suspended for stealing signs. Screw you, AJ Hinch. I cannot stand any Astros people anymore. Y'all are the bottom of the barrel to me, because if Alex Cora gets suspended because y'all wanted to steal signs and Mookie Betts gets traded, well, now that he's signed a one-year deal, we're good. But if Alex Cora, my manager, gets suspended and possibly gets fired, I am going to completely demoralize that entire Astros organization.
So before Frankie has an aneurysm, I think that's where we're going to call it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we're going to leave off from here. Again, thank you guys so much for taking the time to stick with us. And if you've listened to us as long as you have now, really appreciate it. Again, like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you get notifications whenever we put new videos up. I can't really say exactly how often you'll get me on the podcast personally. I'm going to do my best to try to do once a week if I can. It may be once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. But I promise you I'll do what I can to try to get in and out. If anything, I think Frankie will do some solo videos. I may do some solo videos myself, and we may just kind of play off of each other on the channel for a little while until we can get a little more centralized location. That way we can start recording on a more regular basis. But hey, again, guys, this has been Two Docs, No Degrees. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
I'll see you Monday.